Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing a healthy approach to productivity featuring none other than Unjaded Jade.
Hi.
Jade is a friend of mine. You've just released this book, The Only Study Guide You'll Ever Need, which has become a #1 bestseller. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Jade is also a fellow YouTuber. We've been following we started YouTube at like kind of the same time-ish, like 2017, and we've been following each other's channel since. Yeah. And then for a few years I was like, oh, I really want to be your friend, but I feel like it would be weird for me to message you to be your friend.
And like, that's so cute that you say that. Oh my god, he commented on one of my videos a few years ago and I was like, no way, it's the Ali Abdul.
Anyway, let's talk about the healthy approach to productivity. So you've been researching this stuff a lot recently in preparation for writing and publishing your book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, oh my god, it's so surreal to see this in person. So the only study guide you'll ever need is everything I wish I had been able to read during secondary school. So it's a combination of revision methods, evidence-based techniques for studying, productivity tips, all these things that you don't really get taught in school, but are pretty essential to getting that information in your head and being able to do well in exams. But it's also kind of more holistic. So it looks at things that affect you as a student, like perfectionism, fear of failure, mental health, and talking about my own experience. Yeah, it's pretty solid stuff. I have a little quote that's in it. You do. He has talking about spaced repetition or the forgetting curve or something like that. The thing that I really like about it is that there are other books that talk about studying, like Make It Stick is pretty good. I've recommended it a lot. But I think yours is the first of its kind that actually talks about the holistic approach, including the mental health type stuff. You and I get a little bit of flack on the internet for promoting toxic productivity and all that, which is a little bit baffling because I feel like how would you define productivity? Okay, so I think how the internet would probably define productivity is anything where you get tangible output, which is, economic activity. It's you studying, it's you putting in time for a better grade, it's making more money. That's often classically seen as productive, but we want to redefine productivity, right? Absolutely. To us, productivity is just spending time well. And that's something I dig into in this book. That could be spending time with friends. That can be self-care and recharging. If it's spending time well, even if that just means enjoying your life, then that's also productive. Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, I think of productivity as doing more of the things that matter to you. And so to me, hanging out with friends or having dinner with friends or playing board games, or even these days, playing Ratchet and Clank on the PS5, I consider productive. It's when I want to be doing something else, but then I'm not doing that thing. That is when it becomes unproductive, and that's when I start to feel a bit like a waste man. So in the book, you have like a really interesting approach to the productivity equation. I wonder if you can tell us, what is the Unjaded Jade productivity equation? Yes. So if you're not familiar, the classic productivity equation is output over time. So you're trying to produce the most output in the smallest amount of time that you can. Classically in factories, you're trying to make the most products. But I think the way for you to be the most productive in whatever activity you're doing is to add 3 Fs. 3 Fs. Yes, so you're kind of multiplying this output by 3 things. And in this video, we're going to dig into those 3 things, right? Absolutely. So what are the 3 Fs? So our 3 Fs are focus, like deep focus, getting in the zone, forethought, so how you plan your activity, and fun. So enjoying what you're doing. Love it. And so ultimately, productivity equals output divided by time, multiplied by focus, multiplied by forethought, and multiplied by fun. And we're going to dig into strategies for each of these 3 Fs, the 3 most interesting components of the productivity equation. So let's start by talking about the first F, which is focus. Now you've got a really good tip in the book, which is sanctity of space. What is sanctity of space? What's the deal with that? Okay, so the idea is that when you're doing activities, you tend to do them in a certain place. Like when you go to the kitchen, your brain is thinking, I'm going to cook or I'm going to eat. When you're on your bed, you're thinking, generally, I'm going to go to sleep. And so when I'm doing certain activities like studying or like writing this book, I try and keep a sanctity over the space I'm doing it in. So you kind of have a choice, right? Like when you're at your desk, you can make that a place where you scroll on your phone and go on social media, or you can try and commit to making it a place where you revise that chapter of biology, or, you work on a project of some kind. And this was really essential to me being able to finish this book, is I had a cafe where I would go to, and whenever I was there, I wouldn't bring a friend, I would just sit and write. Yeah, and you were able to write this book in like 6 months or something like that? 8 months. 8 months, while doing university, while also being a professional YouTuber. That's pretty good going. Thank you. But it's kind of, as we were saying, focus, right? Like it can be so hard to find when you've got so many different elements of your life that you're juggling. So I find like that intentionality, like I am coming here to do one task, is really useful.
Nice. So I'm going to start using sanctity of space in my life as well, especially when writing my book and doing stuff. I feel like a cafe, nice cafe, same cafe every day would be a good shout. You also talk a lot about like the mental health side of things when it comes to focus. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really focus if your mind is not there. And not every day is going to be the best day of your life mentally. And so that's something I discuss in the book, is how our minds naturally fluctuate, and you can put in routines to help look after your mental health. So I talk a lot about mindfulness, things like yoga and meditation, which sound very hippie and, you know, sound like you're just going to sit there and breathe and it's not going to do anything for you. But habits like that, or even journaling, self-care, are really important for you to be able to sustain focus. And
one tip that I really like that you give is that, like, for those of us who struggle to kind of make time for ourselves, what would you advise that people like me do to kind of incorporate this sort of meditation, mindfulness type stuff into our lives?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think once you've decided that this is something you want to do, the way that you can make it tangible is time blocking. So looking at your life in your calendar and actively putting it in your timetable, you know, that at 7 a.m. when I wake up, or 8 a.m. or whenever it is, that you're going to make 10 minutes to write in a journal, or 10 minutes to go on one of these meditation apps and give it a go. And that makes you more likely to commit to it.
Yeah, this is something that I genuinely struggle with, where if I'm enjoying like work and creating economic output so much, and like that definition of productivity, I often forget to take any time for myself and do something that's non-work related in the evenings. So what I'm going to try and do is like schedule something like a tennis lesson or something at 5 or 6 p.m. to force me to leave work, and then like schedule in the time for like playing PlayStation, or like, I don't know, trying out meditation at some point in the evening. We'll see if that works.
And it's like, you can't see the benefit of it right there and then, right? You know, when you're like playing on your PlayStation, you're like, oh, maybe I could be doing something else that feels more productive because it's going to create gain.
Yeah.
But in you doing these activities, which are just relaxing and, you know, recharging you, that is going to create a better you. It's almost like an investment in you being able to do classically productive tasks better.
Yeah, I suppose it is. And I guess we're also trying to not think of it as, I'm doing this for the sake of more economic output later on.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is the thing that I often struggle with, is like, I guess, you know, the upside of meditation is I can make a video about it. sort of defeats them.
I guess it's just like looking after who you are, but then who you are is doing, you know, all of these other tasks too.
Yeah, man. All right, so we've got the first F, which is focus, and you've got a bunch more tips in the book about it.
Yes.
And you and I have tons of videos on our own channels about how to focus as well. What about the second F for forethought?
Forethought. So it's a bit of a mouthful, that one. But the whole idea is planning, and how essential that is. Because so often we block out a time to sit and study. But if you haven't planned what you're going to study or how to study it effectively, you might just end up kind of wasting time. So you sit there and, you know you need to learn this information, but you don't really know how to learn. So there are some things I discuss in my book, one of which is a framework to understand how we learn and plan better revision techniques. So the idea is that, you know, if you're sad when you're revising, you can change it to the mnemonic SAD.
Nice.
It's a little bit like shoved in there, but memorable. Yes, and this is all based off of, you know, different research papers about what works for science of memory. And the S stands for spaced repetition, which is something I think you've discussed on your channel before. If you look at the forgetting curve of human memory, you can put it somewhere on screen. When you are learning something, you actually exponentially will forget that information if you don't go over and review it. And so the idea is, you know, you just review that information at regular intervals, you're more likely to retain it. And then the second one is active recall. So I think what's so hard and what feels often productive for people is to spend more time revising but doing passive activities like highlighting or rereading a textbook. You know, you're just staring at information, so it feels like you're spending your time well, when in reality, giving it a bit of forethought to plan an active recall revision technique is what is going to give you the most benefit. So the idea is you're pulling information out of your mind. So, you know, if you're trying to recall a process, you actually going and bringing it out of your head is you going over that information. It's better than just reading it.
So that's spaced repetition, active recall. We've got an A and a D. What are those stand
Yes. So the third one is association. So the idea is that when you're learning, you tend to build it off of the foundation of things that you already have in your head. An example that I bring up, which is not related to studying, is how I'm quite good at remembering people's names. And the way that I do this is whenever I meet someone and I take their name, I try and associate it instantly to something I know about this name or this person or something it reminds me of. So I'm kind of building it onto a prompt for myself. So for example, if I meet someone called Charlotte, I can think, what does that name mean to me? My neighbor's called Charlotte, you know? And then whenever I see this person again, I'm bringing back that foundational knowledge of my neighbor, which was going to prompt me to remember that name. And any revision techniques that you're using, which build off of associations, are going to be more effective. And lastly, the D is for desirable difficulty. And this is the idea that you should be doing revision practices which are hard, which challenge you. And if they're not feeling hard enough, then you can put in more active recall, or you can go to more application methods like testing. And so this SAD mnemonic is basically a set of questions you can ask yourself when you come to revise, just to make sure you're doing something which is actually effective.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to start using this when I'm preparing for my future medical exams. We've got a couple of other things within forethought that you talk about in the book that are kind of less study-y and more like general life-y. I wonder if you can talk about some of those.
Yes. Something I've been doing for the last few years, which really helps me juggle having a YouTube channel alongside university, book writing, all of it, is this idea of having a monthly overview with goals. These can be based off of, you know, even your New Year's resolutions and making them more tangible. Then breaking that down to the weeks of the month, then breaking the goals down into what you want to achieve, then your day to-do list, and then your to-do list for what you're going to do in that activity. Yes.
Nice. That's pretty good. The way I always feel like I really need to do like a weekly review, and I just do it so rarely, but on the times I do it, I always feel like, oh, I've got so much clarity. It's such a useful thing to do, monthly reviews as well. But yeah,
it's just discipline, right?
Yeah,
it's like
how do you bring yourself to do it?
I think because the times in my life where I don't do it, I feel really lost or just chaotic, and I feel like I'm constantly like on a treadmill trying to catch up with life. Like there's things I want to achieve, but I haven't put any frameworks down in my life to achieve those things. So it's kind of, you know, like how you feel inspired to do New Year's resolutions on January 1st. You know, it's like massive wave of motivation. I have a similar feeling at the start of every month. Because it's like, oh, you know, it's a new month. Like, why not? You know, I said I wanted to achieve these things this year. Why not use this as a fresh start now to do something about it?
Oh, okay. That's very inspiring. Well, we're sort of early August now, so I might do a wave of monthly planning.
Oh, yes. Go for it.
Might as well. And one thing you also talk about, which I first heard from you on a video 2 years ago, is the Odyssey plan.
Yes.
What is the Odyssey plan?
Can I just say as well, when Ali commented on my video about the Odyssey plan, it was just such a cute moment. I felt so honoured because I always watched his channel. So, yes, so the idea of the Odyssey plan is a way to plan your future. Kind of similar to vision boarding or defining what you want to do with your life. You write down, if you were to continue with what you're doing right now, what your life would look like in 5 years. So if you're studying medicine, the odds are that in 5 years you're going to be a junior doctor or you're going to be a doctor. Maybe you're living in Cambridge if you studied in Cambridge. And that's sort of where your life is going. And then you imagine if you picked a slightly alternative route, which is also achievable. So maybe you study that other subject that you were considering, or you pursue YouTube, which is, you know, maybe an option. I don't know why I'm using your life, Ali, as an example, but I am.
Why not?
And then you also write down, if societal expectations didn't matter, money didn't matter, what would your life look like in 5 years? Like, what would you be doing? How would you be spending your time? And then you take a step back and you look at these life odysseys and you work out the elements of that final one that you could bring into your life now to make it feel more meaningful.
Oh, great stuff. Yeah, I did this first in like December 2019 when you first put out that video talking about it. And it just like genuinely changed the trajectory of where my life was going, just to spend a half an hour thinking and writing about what these 5-year plans look like. I feel like it's time for a new one. I haven't done it in a while.
Oh my God. I feel like I need to do one too.
Oh yeah, nice.
Maybe tonight we can do it, yeah.
Stick it in the calendar, something like that. Awesome. And then that brings us to the final F, which is fun. This is something you and I love to talk about.
We love fun. Come on, who doesn't?
Exactly. So, what are we talking about?
Reframing subjects. Changing the goal. Yeah, book. Cool.
So, when it comes to fun, one thing you talk about in the book is how, like, specifically to studying, how do we essentially talk ourselves into enjoying the stuff that we're doing, even if it's not like fun, like on the surface?
Yes. Okay, so I think so much of what we view as fun is the narrative we're telling ourselves about something. Because if you say, I hate maths, then every single time you go to a maths lesson, that's still in your head. You know, you hate maths. You're not going to enjoy this new thing you're being taught. So I think part of it is noticing, firstly, what you're telling yourself about the things you don't like, and then reframing it based off of you as a person and what you do like to find something of value in that subject. Yes, so again, you can do this through journaling, you can talk to friends about it, but every subject has something brilliant about it. You have to convince yourself sometimes, but I find as soon as you can find a reason for it to be fun, then you can convince yourself of it and make it more bearable.
Yeah, like there's another technique that I used a lot at university, which is for stuff where I couldn't figure out a way to make it fun. The way I would make it fun is by thinking about how I would teach it to someone else. Because I was super into teaching, and I'd always teach students in the years below.
Yeah, and so, you have to make it interesting.
Exactly,
right, when
you've
you're
got to
teaching.
make it interesting. To make it into like silly mnemonics or like weird references or things like that. And even if something is really, really dry, like, I don't know, virology or something, although, it's kind of relevant these days, even if it's really boring and you just have to memorize a table of stuff, figuring out like interesting mnemonics and ways to teach it to someone else just automatically makes anything we do a lot more fun. So that was kind of specific to studying, but I think like the way you approach writing the book is really interesting. I wonder if you can talk about how you made that fun and sort of the goal thing.
Yeah, God. Me and Ali were having a really good chat about this because writing a book when you've already got a platform is kind of terrifying. I think you sort of you're scared of the expectations that people have of you, the pressure for it to perform numerically, all these things like bestseller lists, which I shouldn't even care that much about. You know, you should just write the book for the fun of the process. And I really had to change my goal in order for it to be fun, because I would come and sit down to write, and every single time I'd be thinking about the end point. I'd be thinking about the reviews, that every single word I type right now has to be a best-selling word. And that kind of pressure is crippling. So instead, focusing on why I'm writing it for me, just finishing it, trying to find enjoyment in every single time I finally write a sentence which is good. That made it just a lot more achievable and enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I really need to take this advice on board when I'm doing my writing or anything else, where I feel like if I start taking it too seriously, it just sucks all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas when I treat it more like a game and like, this is supposed to be fun. In fact, I have a post-it note on my monitor, my old monitor, called "This is supposed to be fun," where I just kind of look at it and remind myself,
like, why are you stressing?
Yeah, it's all good. This is all a game. It's not the end of the world if a book doesn't do well. You know, what matters is writing something that you're proud of and getting it out. And it's genuinely very good. It looks very pretty. You should check out the book. Links to the books and everything else in the video description.
It became a bestseller.
Yeah.
Which is, why?
Happens.
Like, what? You know? And that truly was not the goal. When I finished writing this, I didn't care how it did numerically because I was proud of myself for getting it out. This was the message I wanted to put in it. So just write the book, Ali. I'm sure it'll...
It's going to happen one day. All right, so that was our take on the healthy approach to productivity. We've got this equation which incorporates, yes, productivity involves output over time. That's kind of the boring bit, but the fun stuff is the fun, the focus, and the forethought. And you can read all about those things in Jade's book. So links to Amazon, Waterstones, etc. in the video description. Everyone subscribe to Jade's channel as well. It's great. I've been following it for the last few years. And yeah, Odyssey Plan Stuff genuinely helped change the way that I'm living my life. So thank you for that.
I'm so
And
glad.
yeah, anything else you'd like to end with?
Not really. This is just an honor. Random point, but I've been watching Ali's channel for years, and I had a vision of what this place looked like in my head. It's actually much smaller in person.
It's really small, isn't
This is a productive space. Like, you have
space,
milked every corner of the space.
Yeah, that junior doctor salary before the YouTube money started rolling in. But yeah, one day we'll upgrade to a proper studio. Otherwise, it's a pretty nice place.
It's amazing. Love it.
But yeah, thanks for being on the channel.
Thank you.
Everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.